Welcome back to What's in the Box at Chisholm Hunter. My name is Harrison, as always, and the other day I was talking to the team and I said we've got a new show, it's called What's in the Box, and basically you need to pick a random watch, whatever the brand is, and I will review it without knowing anything about it. I have no idea what this is. The outer packaging of this box, I do know it is an Omega. I'm actually hoping that it's the new Omega Seamaster Green. I've been wanting to film that for such a long time, and it's just really hard to find one at the moment. I think they're just so popular that everybody wants them. I have to say, when you compare Omega's packaging to other watch brands, you can really see why they're so far ahead. Their packaging is brilliant. I mean, look at this box. So let's open this now. Aqua, Omega Aqua, I believe this is the silver dial. It's funny, it's actually a lot more attractive in person than I thought it would be. When I saw this online, it got lost in between the others. The silver and blue really took it home for me, the white and blue rather. Let's get hands on. Before I start this review, I need to say that I am doing this totally blind. This was genuinely a surprise, but from memory, this Omega Aqua comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter and sits pretty incredibly on the wrist. I would actually argue that if you don't want a sports watch, if you don't need that rugged toughness of an Omega Seamaster, this is a brilliant alternative. It looks sporty, but it feels dressy on the wrist, if that makes any sense. At the 6 o'clock mark, one distinctive feature is of course the small seconds counter, and the date window is positioned really comfortably at the 6 o'clock mark also. This is a really nice feature, but personally, I prefer the older version. I just think it's that little bit cleaner, and there's a silver dial with an orange hand that Chisholm Hunter actually have in stock. We're official stockists of Omega, and I love that model. Now this is personal preference. If you like that small seconds counter, then by all means, this is the watch for you, but I just prefer the older generation. The thickness of this watch comes in at 13.1 millimeters according to our digital calipers, which just died. And actually, we just pulled out this battery from the digital calipers. Where would you even find that? Like, what even is that? Moving on from the specs, the case and the bracelet come in stainless steel, and they have a combination of brushed and polished steel. And this is partly why I think this watch is that little bit more dressy. It's predominantly polished steel. Now, technically speaking, polished steel does scratch easier or show scratches more than brushed, but technically speaking, and personally speaking as well, it looks beautiful. I mean, when you reflect it in the light, it's just magical. It reflects the light beautifully, and for a dress watch, that really suits the bill. On that note, taking a deeper dive into the bracelet, it has a center link down the middle which is larger than the outer two, and the center link down the middle is actually polished instead of brushed, and then the outers are polished. I really am a fan of this bracelet, and actually I would go as far to say as that I like this bracelet more than the Omega Seamaster, what I actually own. I just think it suits it beautifully. It is that time again. Let's get this watch on the scales and see how much it weighs. So bearing in mind this watch has all the links, it's the full steel bracelet, it comes in at 152 grams, which is actually quite heavy, but remember that does have all the links. Now I'm going to put my Hamilton Khaki Field on the scales because this has been out for a while, so you guys might have looked, felt and touched this and see how much that weighs. If memory serves me right, it will come in at 59 grams. Let's double check. I was right. Oh no, I wasn't. No, I was. 59 grams. On the clasp of the bracelet, it actually has, technically speaking, a butterfly clasp just here. And again, I'm a big fan of that, and I never feel like it's insecure. I never feel like it's gonna fall off. It is always quite tight and quite secure, which I'm a fan of. Now that we've covered the bracelet, let's move on to the case, because the case is an interesting one. Again, it's kind of a hybrid between a sports watch and a dress watch. I would say it leans more to the dressy side of things. And by the way, if you want to buy or sell your watch, head to chisholmhunter.co.uk, linked below. As I was saying, the case is an interesting one. It's kind of that hybrid feel, and the reason it has that hybrid feel is because it looks sporty, but they've used polished steel. So technically speaking, it's more dressy. If you need a sports watch, I would advise to get the Seamaster. If you want a dress watch with a sporty sprinkle thrown in, I would honestly advise to get the Aqua. This seriously drew my eye, and the older that I get, the more sporty watches that I have, I'm kind of more drawn to the dressy side of things now. And the Aqua Terra is a big player in that game. The crown on this model is an interesting one because it actually tapers in towards the case. If you look at the crown very closely, you'll see it's almost like a gradual slope towards the case, which is nice actually, and it's not something that you see often on sports watches. It also is a screw down crown, giving this watch a water resistance of 150 meters. It also sports sapphire crystal glass, and if my memory serves me right, has anti-reflective coating on both sides. Anti-reflective coating on both sides of a watch is a tricky one, because technically speaking, it can scratch a little bit more. And I know that there was a big debate about anti-reflective coating being on both sides of the Omega Seamaster 300 meters that I actually own. I can tell you from personal experience, however, that I've had that Omega Seamaster 300 meters for 2 to 3 years, and there's not one scratch on it. And I've taken that thing through the wars. So if you're gonna throw it against a wall, then maybe worry about it. If you're not, you'll be fine. Moving on to the dial of this model, which is a very interesting one. Interesting is the word I'm using today because nothing about this watch is particularly flash, but it is quite intricate, if that makes any sense. But before we get onto the dial, let's talk about what watch is on your wrist today. It's time for the Chisholm Hunter tradition, which is the wrist check. What is on your wrist today? Let me know in the comments. I am wearing the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical. It is a powerhouse of the watch. Let me know. The dial on this watch is a lot more plain and a lot more classy. I wouldn't say plain, I'd maybe say classy than the other variations of this dial. It is pure silver. Everything about it is quite discreet, quite understated, quite muted, whereas the others are a little bit more colorful, a little bit more vibrant. And again, I suppose it's personal preference. As a photographer and as a videographer, I would probably go with the vibrant, more colorful options. But if you're maybe more classic, more dressy, more work orientated, this would be a good fit. Interestingly enough, this dial actually sports a teak pattern. That is the lines running through this dial, and it gives it that extra layer of depth, which I'm a huge fan of. It also has the small seconds counter at 6 o'clock as well as the date window. It's very symmetrical, it's very clean, and I really like that cleanliness. I really like that symmetry. As a photographer, you look for the lines and things. You look for compositions that work because things are evenly weighted and evenly distributed. And that's what this watch is. It's almost like a professional photography shot in a watch. The hands and the indices look darkened to me. They don't look like steel. They look really dark, and that plays wonderfully against the silver dial. Now remember that this is a blind review. I genuinely haven't seen any of the facts about this watch. I haven't researched it, so I don't know exactly what these hands and indices are, but I can tell you that they look a lot darker than normal steel. That's a good thing, because against the dial it's more readable, but I just don't know what they are because it's blind. The movement in this Omega Aqua Terra can be viewed through the open case back, which is beautiful, which is stunning. To me, open case backs make all the difference. As a watch enthusiast and a watch lover, you want to see the intricacies of that movement. It's almost like having a Ferrari when they put the glass over the engine so that you can see into that work of art. That's what that is, and I love that. So I am doing this movement blind. But if it was similar to my Omega Seamaster, it should have a 60-hour power reserve, and something tells me that it does have a 60-hour power reserve. I'm sure it's COSC and METAS certified, which is just unbelievable. I'm gonna fact check myself because I don't want to give you guys the wrong movement, so give me a second. The movement in this model is the Omega Caliber 8916, and I was correct. That was the movement I was actually going, I genuinely swear that was the movement I was going to say. I just didn't want to get it wrong, but it's a powerhouse of a movement. With that said, I would have liked to see a little bit more power reserve. Just from the upgrade to the previous model, I would have liked to see a little bit more power reserve, but you know, I can't have it all. Before we move on to the price, we are going to take a look at the lume of this watch, because Omega watches have some beautiful lumes. It might, no, maybe, yeah, maybe, some of the best lumes that I've ever seen. There's some competition there. Yeah, let's have a look. As you can see here, it has a beautiful blue lume, and it isn't a fully functional diver because it doesn't have that dot on the bezel, but the lume still shines really bright, and for a dress watch, this is good. By the way, this is a brand new thing here at Chisholm Hunter. What's in the box? If you've enjoyed this watching the box episode, then let us know in the comments, because I'd love to do more of them. And I'd love you guys to pick what watches we review. Drew can have a wee scan. I won't be able to see, and we'll review them for you. If you've enjoyed, please hit this subscribe button. My name is Harrison. This is the Chisholm Hunter channel. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.